From the iHeartRadio studios in New York City, come fans of the greatest rock and roll band hailing from Hollywood, California. Dissecting all things Guns N' Roses and anything else distorted. 'Cause you know what the fuck you are! This is Appetite for Distortion. Try it again!
And welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Distortion. My name is Brando, episode number 47. I can't believe I've done 47 episodes of talking about Guns N' Roses. I didn't think I would do one, but then my buddy Ian Scotto, of course, if you've been following this podcast since day one, you know, it was Brando and Scotto. He convinced me to do it, and we've been having fun ever since. Scotto is just... it's so busy with SOFREP, his government category special operations podcast. So he had to leave this to do that. So I've been taking it over. It's been week to week. I've been lucky with guests that I've had, the response from you, and it's just been insane. And how do I keep this going? How do I keep guests going? Well, I will get into the guests of past, future, but I will get into my co-host. Well, not physically get into you because that would be inappropriate and impossible because we're speaking on Skype, so I don't know how I would physically get into you. See, Tomislav, I have to make it awkward. You know this. You should know my personality a little bit. Tomislav, I don't want to get your last name incorrect, so...
It's Versic.
Tomislav Versic.
Versic, yeah. It's kind of when I lived in U.S., when everybody asked me my last name, I said kind of like very sick. But it's kind of similar letters, but Versic is my last name.
That sounds like very sick. That's not
Yeah. That was my joke.
Well, it's your last name, so if you want to make fun of it, go for it.
Exactly.
So when Tomislav just said when I was in the U.S., I'm speaking to him right now. He's in Croatia. That's where he's from, and we're going to find out, why we're talking to him as we go along. Because Tomislav is just like you. Everybody listening to this podcast is a fan of the Appetite for Distortion program, which is just crazy to me. It's one thing for me to just talk into a microphone and talking to Ian about, Guns N' Roses. But the fact that literally now from around the world, and I ever since Tomislav has come into my life and has been messaging me on Twitter, that's one of the main things. I'm like, I know somebody from Croatia. That's crazy to me. So a few episodes ago, I did an episode with a Sir Kevin. It was, I guess, my only non-celebrity interview, and Kevin knows that. Sir Kevin knows that from Ireland. He volunteered. He's like, I want to be interviewed. If you want to go back, I forgot. I think it was like episode. I don't even know. I probably should have looked it up before. 30-something, 20-something, whatever. We only have 47, and you can find it. He reached out to me and Ian. Because he's writing a Guns N' Roses book, but not in the way of Mick Wall or Tavana still writing his book, but more about his life and how GNR affected it. And, some of it's a tough listen that he would listen to his dad beat his mom, and he'd be hiding underneath his bed listening to Appetite for Destruction in his cassette. So there's the Guns N' Roses tie, what GNR meant to him. And that's what this podcast has been to me. It's just been more than just geeking out about the band. Is the connections. So I had since announced, and I've mentioned it in a few podcasts and even, on Facebook and Twitter, if you want to submit, for future interviews, if you have a great story, you don't have to be a quote unquote celebrity or quote unquote known person to have a good story. And that's what seems to be the case for most podcasts out there. For people who for someone who normally doesn't have a voice, to give them a voice. That's what podcasts are, for better or for worse. So Tomislav reached out to me a while ago, and one being from Croatia just piqued my interest because who listens to me? I don't think my mom listens to me still. And you just were talking about how you fought in the Yugoslavian war, and while bombs are going off and you're blasting Guns N' Roses, and you told me more and more about your story. I'm like, I gotta talk to this guy. And I mentioned it last episode. I'm like, I'm writing this great night train of guests. But, this past week, I'm like, you know what? I've been waiting Tommy, or I like saying Tomislav, because it just sounds more Arnold Schwarzenegger-y.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
By the way, Austria's above you, right?
Yeah, it goes Croatia, and then Slovenia, and then Austria.
Okay, so I'm a third Austrian.
Yeah.
I'm a third Austrian, so there you go. I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about it other than Schwarzenegger. So, but it just makes me feel better to have some sort of connection. So,
I completely get it.
Yeah, and then just Tomislav just messaging us, just like many of you do after each episode, with his opinions and thoughts, and as I want this AFD show to grow into whatever it may grow into, as Axl Rose once said, in addition to how I closed the show with that saying. With the Chinese democracy saying, but when he said that Kurt Loder, Kurt Loder's like, this has been taking a long time, and Buckethead is out there, and if you remember, with Robin Fink, and like, who are these people? And Brain, of course, my new BFF Brain.
It's rad.
Yeah, there's my Brain.
It's pretty radical.
Radical.
Well, that's Duff. We'll get into Duff, but here's the Brain.
It's rad.
I got to get more sound clips of my guests. Maybe one from you, Tomislav. We'll see what happens.
Hey, no problemo.
No problemo.
But he says to Kurt Loder, Axl, that is, I'm just trying to put this monstrosity together.
Axl Rose, he's back. What took you so long?
I was just trying to put this monstrosity together.
So that's how I feel about this podcast. I'm trying to put this monstrosity together. So it's going to be an interesting conversation with Tomislav. We did speak a little bit beforehand, but I'm sure I'm going to be going on the same ride as many of you, because his story, of course, a lot of it intersects with Guns N' Roses, this being a Guns N' Roses podcast, of course. But we're going to see where this goes. So in addition to finding out about Tomislav and whoever, when you want to submit to be interviewed, and there are people I want to talk to in the future. I think the next one I do after this will be, forgive me, I forget his name, but he was the bassist for Mr. Brownstone, the only Guns N' Roses cover band to ever be on David Letterman.
It pays difference to the 1980s era Guns N' Roses before the feud between Axl and Slash, right? Please welcome Mr. Brownstone.
Which is just, of course, why would any Guns N' Roses band cover band be on David Letterman? So he has a crazy story, but that's a fan episode for another time. This is all about Tomislav today. So in addition to finding out about his story and talking GNR and all that fun stuff, I guess, yeah, it's going to be in addition to, you're going to be part of, how I kind of try to start these episodes each time with news. Yeah, you're going to be part of my Shotgun News soundbites, so you signed up for this shit. You want to back out now?
I am proud.
Nice. So in the Shotgun News segment, first, I got to thank Todd Kearns, the last episode. What an awesome dude. I heard nothing but nice things prior to speaking to Todd Kearns, of course, from a Slash with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, and he was pretty open. I mean, he told us about joining the meeting Slash, joining the band, but very confident that there will be another Slash with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators record and tour, and that has nothing to do with Guns N' Roses. It has nothing to do. He's like. Miles, he's on a solo record right now. I support that. Obviously, with Guns N' Roses, if this never happened, I'd be happy. I'm happy with my life. But we all believe, and Slash included, that this was like a real band. This wasn't just something to hold us over until our other bands reunited. So whenever the stars aligned, that's what Todd Kearns believes that's going to happen with Slash and Miles Kennedy. So. If you want to hear more, episode 46. And also guest a previous episode, Classless Act, of course, London Hudson, Slash's son, the drummer, his band, I want to say his band, is part of his band. And I interviewed him and Nico a few episodes ago, Nico the guitarist. They finally got a singer, they got a new bassist, and I believe I may have mentioned this last episode, and I'm hoping to get to speak to a few of them in a future interview again. First gig for Steven Adler's Appetite Whiskey A Go-Go, May 10th. Of course, I try to do this in real time. This real time for me it's Monday, May 19th, President's Day here in New York City. And I know for you, President's Day means nothing Croatia, and it's 6 hours ahead for you. So
So it's about 10 o'clock.
Yeah. So I try to just keep things in perspective. So looking out for that. That should be pretty cool to see Slash's son make his professional debut. And honestly, you guys should follow Classless Act on Instagram. Like, they're always shooting rehearsals, and it was super funny. Chris, their manager, Nico's father, was just live taping them on London and Nico playing Minecraft the other day. And it's like, to me, that's so funny. I'm like watching Slash's kid playing Minecraft, and him and I are just like, he likes all my Instagram posts. I'm like, what? So it's just a funny world that we live in. And last part of GNR shotgun news, I should say. Oh my God, how do I get that wrong? News. And before we transition to some other stuff, Dizzy Reed, his first solo record, is out for streaming. Rock and Roll Ain't Easy. I've heard just the single from it, which I did like. I want to dive more into it. It sounds very Use Your Illusion. But Tomislav, you were telling me off the air. I know he did an interview, but I didn't get the chance to read it and or listen to it yet, which I should. Yeah,
he did it down in Australia. Basically, the record deal, the house that he was, making the album is basically located in Australia. So he did an interview, and they asked him, of course, what's the news about new album from GNR, and he just said, so kind of like cold, he says, wait, I'm the last one to know. So, if we're going to make the album, I'm going to be the last one to know. So, that was it. So he played basically in some very famous bar down, in Sydney, I think so. I think it was Sydney, yeah. And that was a really cool crowd, and there was lots of fans, and this new album of his, I really like, and it's kind of like real rock, basically, the simple rock band, and it's really cool album. I really like it, so.
It's cool. It's interesting that it took him so long to put out a solo record. I would have thought, especially with all the downtime Guns has had, before the reunion and all that, he might have done something to this nature. But especially since he does Hookers and Blow, I mean, the band, I don't know about the actual activity.
Yeah.
I keep making that joke, but it keeps making me laugh, that he would have done something. But no, it's cool. And again, I've just listened to the title track, which I enjoyed, of course, heavy on the keys. It's very cool seeing a lot of fans going to his shows. And if you follow any of the fan groups on Facebook, right up close, of course, he's playing smaller gigs. So it is kind of cool when you're not seeing Axl right in your face, and it's no disrespect, really, because everyone's a person, but you're in Slash up close, but it's still someone from Guns N' Roses, like, in your face. And it's they play songs, he plays songs that GNR doesn't play. So it is exactly. It is pretty cool. I hope to catch them. To transition somewhat, before your story, into your story, I guess.
Yeah.
I know this is a Guns N' Roses podcast, obviously. I mean, I know that because it's mine. But I knew going into it, and then this was even a conversation when Ian and I started it. I mean, how long could this go if this is just talking about the music each time or pretending to know the true stories behind these members, which we weren't there for? I mean, it just seems like there's a lot of that out there. So I wanted to be different and while still making Guns N' Roses related. So we've had some serious, of course, conversations, and anything that relates, to GNR. We had one episode, Guns and Politics, when, of course, Axl brought up the Donald Trump pinata in Mexico City. They've been open. So, I mean, the things like that I want to talk about because they're so prevalent to not just the world, but our Guns N' Roses world. And the last episode, and I appreciate those who reached out to me, and this was after Todd Kearns got off the phone. I saw that interaction online on the GNR Not in This Lifetime fan spot, that Facebook group about that fan who threatened to kill himself. And the Gunners came out, and they, from what I could tell on Facebook, they contacted his family, and everything is okay. And I talk about my experiences with suicide and death, and and it's sorry to make it this sad at the beginning, but where I'm trying to transition to, so you're not completely like, oh my God, where did this come from? This is not what I listened to this podcast for. But I would be remiss not to mention it because I mentioned what happened after some psycho shut up the Vegas country concert, and I was seeing Guns N' Roses the following week, and I'm like, you know what? If I get shot at a concert, if I got killed at Guns N' Roses, so be it. It's not you laugh. I know it's like how to react. I mean, this is the reality. I mean, you have a different reality, Tomislav, and I want to learn about yours because my reality as a sheltered American, especially being a white Jew from Long Island in New York, this is like, you know, especially after 9/11, this is all crazy to me. You know, this is just I'm not used to this world. So
you know, it's a thing that something happens to you, then you realized, you know, what's going on. So
yeah, that's what's
there is reality, you know. It's
a sad reality. So
unfortunate.
I bring all of this up because this is the first recording since another school shooting we had here in the good old US of A. This was in Broward County a few days ago. And I actually found out one of the teachers that was a hero I went to high school with, Scott Beigel. I haven't spoken to him since high school, but I remember him being such like a sweet and nice kid. And this isn't just, you know, speaking positive of the deceased. I just remember I went to a high school that, I mean, a lot of high schools kids are mean or whatever, but this kid was super nice. And he was one of the teachers who saved God knows how many children and kids, and we still lost, you know, what was it, 17 or whatever. So the tie-in here, and I was expecting to see stuff from Guns N' Roses, and also it's not lost on me the band that we like, Guns N' Roses, and that's something I guess we could talk about as this conversation continues, and it's just very interesting. So Slash did tweet out that my heart goes out to the victims and their families, friends for this senseless and horrible shooting. Duff tweeted out something a little bit more, something I was happy that he did, and he kind of got on. He retweeted Pearl Jam, and again, obviously Pearl Jam is super political. GNR is not like that, at least not yet. Or if you don't follow Del James on Twitter. Pearl Jam tweets, we demand new gun legislation and additional mental health care support. He uses a bunch of hashtags, and he says, but they're not mutually exclusive, gun laws and healthcare laws. And Duff retweeted that and saying, I really like what PJ stands for over the years and this. So he supported them in that. And of course, a lot of fans come out and like, shut up and stick to music. And that always, so it's always, I don't know. It creates a debate amongst Guns N' Roses fans, and I just know it touched a lot. You know, Duff has young kids. I mean, Slash's kids are 15 to 13, going to high school. So you know, I know it affects different people in different ways. I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. And you are a unique guest to have on. It wasn't like I thought, because I know you do have some perspective. A lot of these kids are going to go through PTSD and a different level from what you've gone through. I know you have children. This has affected concerts. It's just, this is a sad segue into your story, I guess. But again, I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. And it's just, I like the fact, I don't like anything about any of this, but I just like in this statement that I'm talking to you now. To have to be able to, you know, you're the perfect person for right now for me to talk to about this, or at least make me comfortable about it, and because the whole thing is just uncomfortable. And again, this is a Guns N' Roses podcast, but it affects any GNR family, and again, the members have spoken up about it already. So yeah, I guess Tomislav, I don't know if you have anything you want to say until we kind of segue into your story, because I know you have a different perspective on a lot of things.
Well, first of all, I want to, you know, to say that basically the things that happen in Florida, and the saddest thing is, I mean, those are kids, you know, they're like 16, 17 years old, and it's just the whole life. It's just in front of them, you know, to live, to enjoy it, to have fun, to listen to music, to, you know, do all the things that everybody else in the world, you know, does it. And, you know, to see something like that happens more often, basically what I understood like 18 times in the last year or so. And it's so sad, you know, and because once you feel the fear, from, I don't know, whatever it is, in the world. Is it guns? Is it, something else? You start to look, on the world differently. And, when I was growing up, we we didn't have anything like that, but that was the 80s, this is 2000 and this is 21st century.
You're slightly older than me. You're how old?
I'm 49.
Yeah, you call
49.
You're a young 49. You're like, oh, I'm an old man. I'm like, you're not. 49 is not bad. I'm 34. So I mean, even for me, I've never experienced anything like this. And it's with the Guns N' Roses transition, and just like obviously this is the orbiting around GNR. This conversation. When I went to go see GNR the last few times, and I get because you saw them on the Not in This Lifetime tour, right?
Yes. I saw them, and that was my dream. My dream come true.
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, but I do want to mention, because I don't want to stay on this topic, and I want to focus more on you.
Yeah.
Is when Guns are at the beginning, when they have their Titantron, before GNR comes on, they're having all those graphics come on. So I think they did this at every concert. You would see the GNR logo with the guns and two giant pistols, and just. And it was kind of annoying. Did it happen for you? It was like every 30 seconds. It's like shotgun blasts.
Yeah. It was. I mean, for me first was really interesting.
It bugged me out.
But you see, it's like when I was in Vienna on the stadium, and when when the show's supposed to start, and. I don't know, here in Europe, just recently, maybe in the past 5 or 6 years, maybe something like that happened. There's some kind of shooting somewhere, but nobody was like, afraid or something. Nobody had any kind of fear inside, to understand, to kind of it's a gun or something, because everybody knows it's GNR, and it's like, we came to rock, we came to enjoy it, finally, and, but, for me, I've been through the war, and some other people, who were there, in your mind, it goes like, all right.
It can kind of trigger you. I mean, in many puns. I mean, yes, here in America, triggering and social justice warriors that our buddy Art Devon likes to talk about. I mean, I'm not going to say, but that is a literal trigger, and that's always been there. Yes, Guns N' Roses, but for me, it was just like, there was a concert shooting a week ago. This is just weird, and I didn't expect them. I didn't want them to change anything. I'm not like that where, something comes out controversial and a show has to go out and apologize for a certain scene or edit it out. I didn't want them to change anything. It was just, I sat there in the moment, I'm like, this is kind of weird. Anyway, enough. I mean... Again, this is all fucking super sad. It sucks that
unfortunately, yeah.
Yes, this is just super sad. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. I try to make this, yes, it's a Guns N' Roses podcast, but this is a podcast of us, of people, and we've been connecting a lot of people around the world, and we've been sharing thoughts and feelings, and it's becoming, a deeper conversation than just Guns N' Roses, and I think you all appreciate that. So. Thanks for letting me get that out, and thanks for Tomislav for joining me in that. So, obviously, I don't want to say thoughts and prayers. It just sucks, and just be good to everyone in your family. Just fucking love them and kiss them. That's all it is, and that's why I look at people. That's why I swear to you, Axl and Slash looking at each other, smiling and happy, and it makes me think. I'm like, that makes me happy with all the shit that's going on in my life. Something as silly as Guns N' Roses getting back together, or Axl, Slash, and Duff getting back together, and bringing me that happiness is just such a wonderful escape, and I need that. And it sounds like why you wanted to be on, you needed that. So Tomislav, let's finally get into let's get into you a little bit. So you're a 48 Croatian who has not yet been divorced by his wife for loving Guns N' Roses too much, right?
Well, something like that, yeah. And I hope this second thing is not going to happen. This half thing, I want half, But I just want to say, it's like if if you look back in 1987 when GNR started to they came out really, really big in 1988. And I kind of just cannot, believe it that one album, for example, Appetite for Destruction, it's like I've been listening for so many years, and I never get, not enough. It's like you always need to put that, the one song or the second song or My Michelle or, it's like, or Rocket Queen or whatever, it's like I just cannot understand. When you listen it, it's like, what is in that music that just, in that songs that just keeps you, listening every day, and you're not bored, you just want more. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, absolutely.
Like,
I think everybody listening knows what you're trying to say. So, what kind of because I know that the path, and that's your part of your. I'm going to find out more about your story. I'm sure that's going to fascinate me. But the part of your story, which I prefaced everything with, was, and you knew right away. It's like, I used to drop bombs on people while listening to Appetites. But I want to find out how we got there. So growing up, and I told you, I am a product of the American school system.
Yes.
So obviously, I'm kind of being, a little, funny with that. But I spoke to my friend yesterday. I was like, "Hey, I'm interviewing a Guns N' Roses fan from Croatia." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." She's like, "I don't think we learned much about Croatia in social studies." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, as I'm talking to you the other day, and just like in the pre-interview, I have. Google Maps open, and I'm just like, okay, where? And I obviously there are more educated and less educated people than I, but I just don't know what it's like to grow up in Croatian and the exposure to music. So what was it like? What were your, what did your parents approve of? Did they influence you? Is there a certain Croatian music? Is there things that are censored there? I mean, again, I'm going into a completely ignorant as a dumb.
No. It's in that time in the 80s was kind of we were still in Yugoslavia, which was like a social communist country. And it was so hard to get the music from outside Yugoslavia. And, if you had somebody who lived in Italy or Germany or somewhere else, you would go like, hey, listen, bring me the LP, the cassette, or bring me LP or something like that. But, you're close to the end of the 80s, we started having this German newspaper, like a magazine, a music magazine. It was called Bravo, but it was like most of the pop rock music, and like a disco music of the 80s or something like that.
Like Mr.
But in the same time, like we start to getting all these new rock bands that were coming out, like Motley Crue for us was new. We never heard of Motley Crue, or like, I don't know, Aerosmith was like, big in the beginning of the 80s, but we still found out about Aerosmith in the end of the 80s, and stuff like this. The only 2 or 3 bands that were like really, really big in that time was like, of course, AC/DC and, like, I don't know, The Doors or stuff like this. That was like, number one music that was, listened for, for a while, and everybody knew. But for us as kids, like 14, 15, or 16, you just didn't know. You were like, and then boom, I went to the army in 87, 88, and
you were telling me,
came on.
And you had no choice in that, right? Because the way I understood it, being a Jew,
you had to
it was
go.
like Israel, that you have to go in.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
You have to go. Only if you had some kind of issue with your health or something like that. Then
Sure.
I think, okay. Yeah.
My grandfather wasn't drafted because he had epilepsy. So I knew that. See, I know that.
Yeah.
Unlike some people who dodge and go to Canada or go to Mar-a-Lago, like our.
Yeah.
It's President's Day, sorry, here in America, so I can't help but think about it. You had to. So yeah, that's. I can't imagine though. How old were you when you were drafted?
I was. I mean, it's like after you finish your high school, just like if you finish in June,
So,
and
18,
in September you go to army.
So it was like 18? 18?
I was like 17, 18 years old, and I had to, in like a 1 year, I've been home twice. And my army place, army city where I went, it was like 2 hours from where I live. But in that 1 year, I've been home twice on vacation, like 3 or 4 days or like 2 weeks. And that's it. You couldn't go, and that's it. You're in army, and that was it. And you can get like, visits from your parents, but that was only for a couple hours, and that was it.
Did you, was it just because, hey, this is just what you did, you didn't think about it, or did you, like, back in your mind, you didn't want to go? Or did you want to go?
Well,
or it just was what it was?
Well, they say the army is going to change you, and believe me, it did, because it gives you some kind of like how to say, you wake up in the morning, you make your bed, and when you're home, your mom makes your bed, and stuff like this.
It probably gives you a structure.
It makes you a man.
Yeah, a structure,
exactly.
Man. Yeah, no,
the structure of the human.
I get that. There's a lot
person.
of things. You can go to football camp, you go to space camp. There's a lot of things you can do that, not risk death.
Yeah.
But I get it. I have friends who served. Everyone has different experiences. But it's just, again, I don't know anybody who went through the draft, so that's just a different. That's like the thing is, at least not yet. I'm past the draft and I'm handicapped, so I don't have to worry about it. But who knows if there'll be another draft here in America at some point. So continue. So when you were drafted,
So during this end of my 1 year, we start to having the MTV. On the television, and that was new for us. It was like, wow, now we can listen and enjoy it and listen to the world music, what's going on around.
Was it Croatian MTV, or was it like you
No. It was
MTV.
just English, or American. I'm not sure, but it was it was English. It wasn't like in that time. It wasn't like German or Croatian, or it was just one MTV. That was it.
Okay, because later on they, of course they had like MTV Europe, but I didn't know if you had like maybe like a Yugoslavian, maybe you had like a Yugoslavian version of Pauly Shore. I didn't know, which would have been awesome. But
I figure we's a little juice.
And in the same time on Handbangers Ball, start to come out. Handbangers, the metal, hard rock and the metal series, where the Guns N' Roses kind of destroyed all this, in the TV show, they destroy all this. It was like, a hard rock part of MTV. And that's where the first time I saw GNR with Welcome to the Jungle, and I was basically on the ship, and not only me, but like 30, 40 guys from the ship, because it was like a big ship, like 120 yards long, and it was just like all of a sudden everybody went nuts. In like 15 days, you could not find any tape in the city to buy it from GNR. Everything was sold out in 2 weeks, and it was like explosion, everybody start to, listen, and then the Sweet Child of Mine, the Paradise City came out, they stood out, it was just like, you were just, as I said earlier, you were listening to the tape a whole day, basically, it was the time that you had off, like during the army time, you had like half an hour break, headphones on, tape in the Walkman, and Guns N' Roses goes, and it was just became so crazy. But in that time we didn't have internet. It was like you whatever you saw on TV, on MTV, like a news or something, that was it, but in the beginning, GNR didn't get that many, that much space on the MTV,
right?
Just later on.
But after MTV, you do go out to buy the? Because again, you're a little older than me. Was it cassette for you, or was it vinyl?
Tapes.
Okay,
cassette.
so you said Walkman,
that was
right?
It. That was it. Because
that was still me. I was like the tail. I saw it. I guess actually found my Ace of Base cassette, the single, the cassette single for The Sign. Yes, whatever. It's up in my apartment for some reason. I just wanted to put it up there. So I was at the tail end of the cassette and CDs. So I just want to visualize you with your your Walkman and your
No,
appetite in there.
that was a cassette. It was a cassette
right on.
because I still have an Appetite for Destruction that I bought it in 1988. It's still in my box. And the other thing that I have, which is like an LP from Queen, Live Killer.
Okay.
I used to be a DJ, so I used to have like 400-500 tapes, cassette tapes, and I had like 300-400 LPs. But my friends took everything, so I got only 2 things left,
Bastards.
and that's it, you know. But it's still mine, and I said, you know, who knows? You never know. One day, you know, cassette's gonna come back. And now I'm listening. A couple days ago, they say that the cassette tapes are gonna come back, and I'm like, I cannot believe it. You know, it's amazing, but you know, it's you know, till this day. And when I look back in that time, when I finished serving the army, you have to, you know, kind of stand front of the old crew from the ship when you're leaving, and how GNR influenced me. And you know, I ordered like patches for a jeans jacket, you know, and I took off the sleeves, and so I gave to this captain's wife to kind of put that all together on my jacket, you know, all the patches with a cross and Guns N' Roses with a yellow circle, you know. So I was standing front of the, I don't know, maybe like 60, 70 people, and I had naked arms, you know, and I'm completely shaved, you know, from my head, but I had a, you know, GNR jacket on me. That's how I left Yugoslav Army.
Okay.
That was like, everybody was looking at me like, "Wow, this guy's nuts," you know. But
I picture you looking like fucking De Niro from Taxi Driver or something like that. That's
exactly, something like that. But
I love you.
It was just, you know, it was. Hey,
Talking to me?
I'm finished with the army, and I left, you know, like the way that I want to, because you know it was always in my life that hey, we have one life to live, so. We got to enjoy it. We got to do it wherever we want to do it. You know, if you don't do it and then you regret it later, you're going to ask yourself, why I didn't do that, you know? But, hey, I always say to myself, if I want to do something, I'll do it. And that's it. And after that, you know, it's, you know, those 2 years from 1988 to 1990 went so fast. And during that time, I, you know, found out about Skid Row, found about all the others, you know, hard rock and heavy metal music that comes from, you know, from US. And it was just from there, it was like, I said to myself, you know, first time when a GNR comes to Europe, I'm going to see the show. But unfortunately, in 1991, when they started touring in Europe, the war started in my country. And it was like, we were affected because it was too close to my city where I live. And it was like, oh gosh, you know, I don't know I'm going to be able to live that dream to see them, you know. And in the same time when the war started, we lost the electricity or the water. And I remember when there was a Freddie Mercury show in London on Wembley, we took this how to say, like when you put the gasoline in the machine, then you get electricity, like you know what I'm saying, when you don't have electricity and then you hook it up in this kind of like
generator,
I don't know, generator, exactly. Thank you for helping me.
No problem. And I don't know English well either.
And we watched that show for like 4 hours, something like that.
On a generator. That's fun.
And we record that on the tapes and on VHS, you know. And there was a big deal. And when you saw the GNR playing with the Queen, it was like the history is made, you know. And
Sure.
And through all that time, we were inside. We were in the war, you know. We were fighting every day. We were, you know, you didn't know you're gonna live tomorrow. And my city was under siege for like 3 years, for 3.5 years, you know. And it was kind of with the story that I told you, and it's funny, but it's not only me, but there's so many other people that did it, and because we had to live through this, if you want to leave my city, you have to go to this industrial zone, and over that industrial zone was a hill that was under the Serbian hands. So they saw us like on your palm, they had it like where the sniper guy has it, that's how they had us. Mm-hmm. And we had to drive like 70, 80 miles an hour through that zone to get out of the city. And, if you get hit, you get hit. So every time when I was doing it, I would put GNR tape in it. And it was like, press play, welcome to the jungle, and the Paradise City, and My Michelle. And I was driving like nuts, everything was so crazy.
And every second of those songs, you may be dead. You may be thinking, I could be dead. At any second, are you able to lose yourself in those songs? Or are you like, hey, this is the last song I'm ever going to hear because I may be killed?
No, I didn't even want to think about that. It was the.
So you lost yourself then?
Exactly. I mean, I was just driving, and it was it. Because if you look at left or right, and you see how like 30, 40 yards from where you're going through or you're driving through, and the grenades just exploded. And as fast as you go, hey, if it hits me. That's it. You go.
So it is what it is. Wow. I mean, but even if you weren't thinking about it, the reality is that could have been your last song anyway.
Exactly. And I said, you can go through any kind of training for the war, but if you're not lucky, forget it. Believe me, so many situations that I saw it, not only me, but my friends, and you just cannot believe it, how lucky you have to be to survive the war. And doesn't matter where it is. In my country or in Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever it is, and now 20-something years later, I'm asking myself why I had to do that, why I had to go through all these things, why I, almost had to destroy my life. And in the same time, I was like, hey, I I listen the music that make kind of my life easier, to forget all the fears, because it was so powerful, it was so strong that you just you didn't care. I was like, hey, I'm going, but in my headphones were on, and it was that music that just kept me going. And till this day, when I wake up, and nobody's home, my wife is work, my son is at school, there is a GNR live from Ritz. Mm-hmm. And, the best show that I ever saw in my life, and I'm going to do it every time I can. And when I heard that GNR coming together again with Duff and Slash, I said to myself, well, this time are mine. And I told you yesterday when we talked, I was like, I never, I am not that kind of person that's gonna kind of, how to say, cry for everything. But
sure.
First 15 minutes of that show, it was just like I couldn't stop, the emotions, because everything that I went in my life and I gone through, and now they're right there. They're like 200 yards from me, and to see the Axel and Slash and Duff finally together, it was just like, hey, now I can die. I mean,
please don't, not yet. At least
but and I was, I just tears were coming to my eyes, and I turned around and I see this big German guy behind me, like looking at me, and I see tears, in his eye, and I'm going like, okay, I'm not the only one, sissy, but...
Are you crying? 9, it's something in my eye.
No, it's something in my eyes. But, it was so, it was so unreal, finally your dream comes true.
So that's what's amazing about your story, because we're all like that. That's why, everyone who listens, why I do this podcast, just music in general. It takes me back to that special place. Don't worry, I'm not gonna sing, but that's how that's kind of how it is. It takes you back to a place, and for one, not just with Jumanji with Welcome to the Jungle, and that song has been used in God knows how many war movies, right? And just picturing, and just picturing, a 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old Tomislav having to go 70, 80 miles per hour through grenade fields, and you're putting on Appetite for Destruction in your cassette.
Yeah.
And, you have to. I mean, you can't think about death. Otherwise, you can't survive. I mean, you can. Yeah. That's, I'm sure, one of the mental tools you have to use. You can't think about death, but that's literally Welcome to the Jungle, and that's you live that. You really live that. And this isn't, no disrespect to Dwayne Johnson, but it's nothing like that. This was something, completely real. So I guess what the question is, in certain songs, again, whether it's a girlfriend or maybe a previous concert, the first time you put on the record, or the first time you saw them on MTV or whatever. But when you hear Welcome to the Jungle, does it bring you back every time to...
Oh, yeah. Every time. So,
are you able to compartmentalize that? Because, there are always things, right? Because there are always things like now for like I'm always gonna, whenever I listen to Paul Simon, I'm always gonna think about my dad. It's unavoidable. I'm not gonna stop listening to Paul Simon. But for you, I don't expect you to stop listening to GNR, but it's just I don't get I don't think about what you may think about or have things triggered. So I can't What is it like for you? Or are you able to compartmentalize it? I mean, I guess you are.
It is the funny thing, but I always tell everybody, it's like, it doesn't matter what kind of drama you had in your life. It's really important to talk to somebody that you are really close to.
Right.
For example, like when I came back from U.S. in 1998 and the war ended in 1995, and when I came back, all these flashes from the past start to, come to my head, because during these 4.5 years that I lived in U.S., I didn't have it because my head was focused to survive, to live, to go through something different that I haven't been before. And when I came back to the city where I grew up and the city where I went through all, during the wartime and everything what happened, those things started coming back to my head. And I was the luckiest person in the world because 10 days after I came back, I met my wife, and she was like really, really big part of, giving me a chance to recuperate, to get up. And I remember, I remember what she told me, but it was a night when I was completely wet. You will wake up like 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and she goes to me, I changed you like a baby last night. And I was like sweating? Yeah, completely sweating. Right. But I didn't have any recollection.
I don't know if you pissed yourself or something. The way.
No, I
wouldn't judge you. I wouldn't judge you. But.
Yeah. And, it was just like, it's so hard. And that's why I'm like really against all these guns things, like really guns, not the Guns N' Roses, but the guns because, it just destroys the lives, and somebody's making so much money off selling the guns. Mm-hmm. And what's the point of it? Basically every bullet costs 25 cents. So that's how much money my life or somebody else's life is worth. And, when we look at the whole world, it's always somewhere is a war. But in the same time, it's always something new, new music is coming out. And when you hear it, and in that time, if you're in the war and if you listen to the music that you like, you're going to forget about the war. That 5 minutes or, as long as the song, it's going on,
No, absolutely.
And that's what happened to me. I'm like, I still cannot believe it. But on my phone, on my cell phone, it is a picture of the Guns N' Roses, and my wife and my son jokes about it. It's like, oh, it's not our picture; it's a Guns N' Roses picture. I was like,
you probably have like a flip, like a family photo, like when you like those wallets where the old family photos would just kind of fold out.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's all like Axl and Adler, and your kids' photos are nowhere to be found. That's funny.
And that's why I was so mad, because I went through all these things, in my life. And when I heard that GNR is going to come back, I was praying so much that all 5 original are going to come back together, because, they went through lots of, bad times. Yeah. Like Slash and Duff and Steven and Easy and Axl, all 5
they
of
all
them,
did. They all did, right?
Yeah. And they lived it, and they went through it, and now they're like 50s, and it's like you see how many people is listening to the, GNR, and if you look at, they did it like 5-6 albums, and they're like rock icons, and it was like, oh, please, come on, all 5 of them come back. And then when you see, it's like, I was disappointed that they're not, find the same language. And I know what happened to Steven, with the back and everything, But when you saw him play that first show in Philadelphia, or Detroit, where was it? I'm not sure.
I want to say Detroit. I don't know.
Detroit, yeah. But see the smile
I'm sure somebody
on his
will
face.
correct me, but yeah, of course.
It was like, I would give everything to be on that show, because I know what kind of life he had, because the similar one I had because of the war, and it's just, it's. I was so happy, to see that saying. He was
right. I know what you're saying, and that's how I kind of look at it too.
Out.
That's how I look at it too. I look at that, and I said it before, when I look at Axl and Slash, smile, and
exactly.
Slash could be dead, multiple times over. Duff could be, they all could be multiple times over. And I look at like, hey, I was never in a war, but I have my own. I've had near-death experiences. That there is hope. And look what these guys have fought through and have bettered themselves, and to be up there and be alive. And, so I don't know, maybe that's what you think of now, that when you listen to Welcome, that, it may take you back to that not so special place, but knowing where you are now with, the family, that you're able to appreciate it. So that's what they always say about hard times. It makes you help to appreciate the good times. Although I think we all would have appreciated GNR not breaking up and just have stayed together. Although, I don't know.
Exactly.
Although maybe in 2018 they would be getting, how Metallica fans seem to treat that band, even though they stay together and whatever they do, like they give them shit.
I saw the Metallica, and what I wanted to say that a year before I saw GNR, I saw AC/DC with Axl. And there is a one situation that I'm never going to forget. Right next to me on the stadium was 75-year-old grandpa, and his son tricked him to to go to Vienna, and because when the grandpa was young, he was in 1978 or 79 on AC/DC with Bon Scott, in Hamburg or Germany somewhere on the show. And so he brought him on stadium, and he goes to him, "What do you bring me here? This is not AC/DC. There's no Bon Scott," and stuff like this, because, hey, he's 72. So, he was old rock and roll dude, and then when Axl starts singing, guys stand up and hugs the son and kiss him and goes, "Thank you very much. One more last time to her, the AC/DC." And he goes, "And this guy is really good. Who is this guy?" He's like, "Who is Axl Rose?" And then he goes, "Oh, this is from Guns N' Roses." He's like 72 years old. And he handbanged for like 40 minutes without stopping. I was looking, I just couldn't believe it, And to see that passion in Axel, and to see that guy that is 72 years old, and you go like, well, this is the life. You see how people love that rock, the music that is like everybody in those 2 hours forget who they are, what they did, what kind of life they had, but they came on the show and enjoyed it. And when they left the show, hey, I was speechless for 2 days because, I couldn't believe it.
It's still the best show. I know, neither can I. And I spoke about it. To me, I think it's the best show that I've ever seen. And I know I'm a little biased because I was lucky enough to be like, almost against the stage for Axel DC through radio connections. So I know that added to it. But it was just still I never expected it. And if you listen to the Scott Ian episode, he said the same thing.
Scott
Ian,
I completely understand what he's saying.
I mean,
because
he'll have an opinion on everything. It's not always nice. So for him to say that that's my favorite AC/DC show ever, the one with Axel, that's fucking ridiculous. And see, that's what I like. With not just with you, and you're telling me stories about, just with your. Like the German guy crying and his old grandpa, whatever, and all these connections through music and through Guns N' Roses, and now somehow AC/DC has become a part of this Guns N' Roses family, I guess.
But it is, It's how it goes.
It's all these connections.
Unfortunately,
it's all these connections that we're making through the music, and I have no doubt that the members themselves are the same way. Like while we are escaping by listening and going, they're escaping by being on stage. Because that's what I think that Todd Kern said. He's like, Slash is always in the studio or on tour. And I have to think that, and Axl seems to be the same way. Even when he disappeared, I'm sure he was in the studio every day doing what? Hopefully one day we will find out.
Yeah.
But I have to
I hope so too.
Imagine that it's some sort of escape for them, especially those who suffer from addiction. And that's a good addiction to have if you're addicted to touring and to playing. And that's what it seems like Slash is. So it seems like we're all in the same boat, whether you're a fan or you're an actual member of the band, and just connecting country to country all through the same fucking music, which is just kind of which is just amazing to me. Have you gotten do you only have one kid, or how many?
One. He's 9 years old.
And getting him into, are you training him properly? And I'm not talking about like army, I'm talking about music.
It's I'm gonna I was so happy when he was like 4 years old, because I was we were on our way to the kindergarten, and I had a CD in my car, and it was like Chili Peppers and Guns N' Roses and Metallica and all this kind of mix, And he goes to me, Dad, turn, that song, put it back. And I was like, what do you mean with song? That song, like, you know where you are, And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I thought he was joking with me, because I was like, didn't expect that my son's gonna the same song, and like Welcome to the Jungle, and then after that song he loved Chili Peppers, and I was just like, I couldn't believe it. This is my kid. It's not the postman, kids, but it's mine.
Sure.
But it's now he's in school, and now you see the influence of the kids.
Oh,
they are
damn kids.
So it goes now. The music goes a little like pop and rap. He likes rap music, And I was like, okay, just not folk, just not folk music here in Croatia. Folk music is like something that
folk Croatian music.
I mean, not the Croatian, but the folk from ex-Yugoslavia, which is really start to kind of
I know it's not near you.
It's a different story.
I keep thinking of like I think they're from Iceland though, Monsters and Men. So it's like I'm thinking of like that kind of folk, or Mumford and Sons. Is that like a kind of?
Well, every country has like this, like in U.S. you have a country, but not the country like. How to say, not the like country like I don't know, Tim McGraw, not that kind of country.
Today's U.S. country is a joke. It's pop country. It's not like Johnny Cash or
That's what I'm saying. Something like that. And here in especially that kind of music comes from Serbia. So Serbia was our enemy in the war. So for me, who during the wartime they were like putting those kind of music, and they put the big speakers out, and they were like in 2:00 in the morning start to blasting that kind of music, and we did the same, but with with the GNR or Metallica. So it was like a shooting over 2 miles like distance with the music thing.
So you're trying to blast them out. Oh,
exactly.
With fucking just blasting Guns N' Roses,
exactly, yeah. So,
and
but
during
now
real fucking wartime, this is insanity, man. Like, this is insanity.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Axl and Slash never anticipated their music being heard in the manner that you've listened to them. Almost getting killed, surrounded by grenades, and blasting, trying to get the Serbs out of their house, or however you want to do it.
Well, it was but it was fun at the same time, because you just realize that tomorrow I might not be here, so hey, what the hell, let's do it,
I guess whatever you need to do to get through it,
exactly
I can't imagine.
Because if you don't do it, then you're gone, because then you're not you don't have a control over yourself.
No.
Then the fear comes inside of you, and that's the time when it's the worst, because then you can make a mistake, and if you do a mistake, you're gone. And you have to understand that. You have to deal with it for a long time, and finally I was lucky to leave in '93 and come to live in U.S.
And you left. I mean, you don't have to go into specifics, but you were injured, right? That's what happened.
Yes. And that was my kind of a ticket to so I can leave the country, because if you were able to fight, it was just like, oh, no way that you're gonna go out of the country, and it's for me was like, here, no electricity, no water. That was 91, 92, and 93. It's like, it was like 20 years ago, And then all of a sudden, I came to New York. It was like somebody hit me with, I don't know, like 2x2 or 2x4. How do you call it?
Sure. 4x4?
In my head, or rock throw at my head, because it was like, wow.
Wait, you
it
came
was
to
like
New York?
a shock.
You came to New York because I know you said you lived in Kansas City to me.
Yeah. But I came to New York. I flew to New York, and then from New York I went to Miami. I was working in the cruise ship
these
for
must
a
have
year.
been culture shocks to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's right. I can't even. Right. Like, for me, it's nothing, but then your life is a culture shock to me. So that's why, and our common bond is GNR. So that's why this whole thing is just fucking fascinating.
Yeah. It is amazing how, when, for example, when I came to U.S., it was just like, for me, I saw U.S. through the Miami Vice TV show, with Don Johnson, and I was in Miami, man. Hey, wow, look at the beach. Look at all this. To me, it was like, I'm in heaven. I'm alive. I survived the war, and now I'm here. And it was my dream to see them in 93, 94, 95, 96, those times that I was in U.S. But it wasn't my luck. I couldn't see the GNR because they were in Europe, and when they finished the tour, use your illusion. It was just like, that's it. And
so the reunion the reunion was the first time you actually got to see them, or I think
exactly. Yeah,
after
I had
all this
chance time. Two more times. They were in Zagreb, which is the capital of Croatia, and Split, but I had to work. I couldn't go, and I was so mad. I mean, there was with DJ Ashba and Bumblefoot, and it was like I want to see GNR, But finally, like last year, it was just like, your dream is
that. I don't blame you for being misty-eyed or crying. So I mean, because for last year to be your first time, because I've talked about it on the podcast, so I'm not going to bore people, reminding them about my story. But having to see Axl for the first time in 2002 with a bucket, that's when he came out with the the jersey and all and the braids and stuff. But still, it wasn't. I didn't feel the way I felt when I finally saw Axl / Duff, and just the childlike. I felt like I looked like SpongeBob with the wide-eyed and tears and just like a tongue hanging out, watching It's So Easy when they kicked it off. I'm like, this is just, oh my God. And unlike Ian, I'm the asshole who always takes pictures and videos, and I don't do the entire concert, but I wanted to catch those first few moments. But I just losing myself like you did to a degree is just amazing. But did you correct me if I'm wrong? You saw Slash's Snake Pit, or you did not?
Yes, I did. During the time I lived in Kansas City.
Which version? Which version did you see?
In the KC, there was like 1995 or I think 96, 95. I think so. It was. So is that
the Eric Dover version then? The first record?
Yeah, I think it is. Yes, okay. 1995. I remember 1995. Yes. Because in 95, and my roommate, boyfriend was, he was responsible for the lights in that bar where they were playing, and I bought a ticket, but I had to work during the day, and when I finished working the lunchtime, I got home, and he goes to me like, "Hey Tom, were you gonna help me unload something from the truck?" And I'm like, "Hey, no problem," So I get over there, and he goes to me, "Okay, take those lights and put it in the bar." So I'm walking in, and so that bar was like, you walk in like 2:00 afternoon, and inside was dark. You couldn't see anything, like all the bars in US. And I walked in, and there was like this guy, like sitting at the bar with a bottle of Stolichnaya vodka and a half glass full of it and big black hair. And I'm like looking at him, and he turns around and goes like, "Slash, man, it's Slash." In the same time, I'm like 6'2", and all of a sudden you're like 2 feet tall. It's like you're so like a kid. And he was drunk. I'm 100% because he was like basically talking, and at the same time he was tired from the trip. I think they just arrived like half an hour ago before, and he was really cool. He talked to me like 10 minutes, and I walk outside, and
it's a long conversation.
Kyle, that was the name of the guy. Hey, I still remember. That was 1995. This is 2018, and I still remember the name of the guy. I was like,
I was 13. So wait, I just want to make You're welcome.
And on the show, he came out with this huge python, like just when the show started, and it was just like, man. Thank you, God, thank you very much. I see Slash at least, but
and to be up that close and to talk to him.
Oh yeah, it was like, we talked for like 10 minutes, but the whole show was like maybe inside was like maybe 300 people. That was it, and you were just like five yards away from the stage, and it was so cool, and it was like pure rock. Pure rock music that he plays, and you could see that passion is him. Like, because when he plays, it's I don't know, you just go somewhere different, and it was just like dream come true. I mean, the first part,
Sure,
but
no, that's something.
It was so cool.
Again, just going back to that, that's the image that stuck with me when you first contacted me, months ago. Just listening to Welcome to the Jungle and Appetite, and just years later, just having that with you, and just and then having some sort of, I don't want to say physical connection. You and Slash didn't hook up, but I mean, just going there and just meeting him and knowing where you had been from, where you came from with his music. It's just a reality I like hearing about. I just don't know if I'm glad you survived it, but not many of us have. We all kind of have our tale with what Guns N' Roses played in our life, and it's different for everybody, but it helps. It seems to help everybody. It's quite amazing what this band has done.
I always say, some music in the past, anybody's life, like when you have like couple songs, the love songs or something. I have a GNR. And till this day, my wife goes to me, how can you listen that every freaking time, every day? It's like, but I go to her like, listen, hey, it is mine. It's something that I'm thankful that in the same time when I was going through this rough parts of my life.
Yeah, but but you could say to her, hey, I love you every day. I don't get sick of you, right? Not to say. Hey, it's like, hey, if you love something, you want to spend as much time with it as possible. Whether it's your wife or Guns N' Roses, they're kind of same priority, right?
No, I believe me. It is. You gotta have some luck in your life. It's not everything about the money or things where you've been, what you do. But if you don't have somebody next to you who doesn't understand you, believe me, you can have everything. You can go every week somewhere else. You can drive, I don't know what kind of car, but that second soulmate has to be on the same level with you. If you help her, she helps you. That is a yin and yang, which is in the Chinese, past had like really big influence on our lives. And it's the same in our lives. Doesn't matter where you live in the world, but your soulmate has to understand you. And, if you are kind of how to say, she get it. She understands because none of us has the same life. We don't have a same life. It's different. But the music, I always say, imagine the world will be just music and love. It'll be great.
We've been trying since fucking Lennon.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly. What?
We're trying
today. I was watching on I think it was a Great Britain talent show or something like that. Okay. And there was the guy from Iraq who came on the stage to sing a song, and he doesn't have half of the hands and legs because he was found in some kind of box, he and his brother, and I don't know what happened, but they were like, they're handicapped.
Okay.
And he came out and sang John Lennon, Imagine. And the whole, every person who was in audience, even the judges in that show were crying like babies. Because to see the guy from Iraq who, when some of the judges asked him, how old are you? And he goes, I don't know. And she goes, what do you mean? And he goes, I don't know when I was born because I was picked up. They found me in the boxes, in the box. And they were like, you couldn't imagine. And then you see now that guy, after, 20 years, comes on stage and sings the most popular song in the world. And everybody cries. That is the power of the music. That is a power that goes to your heart, not to your brain, but to your heart. And it touches you so much. And that's how, the music, used to have influence on the people, but
yeah, it
now
does for,
it
it clearly does for we Guns N' Roses fans. And that's what's been amazing about doing this podcast, just connecting and sharing stories more than just like, hey, what's your favorite song? Who's your favorite member?
Exactly.
Just getting into deeper conversations. And that's what this podcast has been all about, and getting different perspectives from just a Guns N' Roses fan. And that's what I've done in all my interviews, not just, this being my second fan spotlight, or I'm just trying to think of, we got to come up with a good name as we continue doing these like a listener profile, Guns N' Roses fan. We should come up with, and I'm open to suggestions, and I'll make another one of my stupid little soundbite intros for that, for more listener interviews. But just to talk to you, to find out your story, where it intersects with Guns N' Roses, because I've shared mine, what Scotto shared his, and I do that with every single interview, whether it's Todd Kearns, to find out, how he went from just a kid in Saskatchewan of course, with Roxana Shirazi, escaping persecution from Iran.
That was, hey, that show was like, I was hooked. I couldn't stop listening. I was like, unbelievable.
I appreciate that.
I was speechless. That was it. That's all I had to say. So,
well, I mean, just like how with this episode, and I want feedback from everybody. I asked that for every episode because this is our podcast, even though I'm at the helm, I guess. With that episode, I knew it was going to be controversial going in, and I got some people who weren't a fan but still weren't a fan of that episode, but still like me, and like they just made sure, hey, I still love the show. It wasn't, but there were other ones who just said what other fans had said what you just said, that they like what you had to say. So it's just again trying to find that Guns N' Roses angle and going from it just all around the world and just seeing what perspective it is. So whether it's a woman fleeing Iran, whether it's a guy from Croatia, whether lucky enough to talk to Dave Kushner or Slash's offspring, just a different perspective that orbs around this Guns N' Roses thing that we're all somewhat familiar with, which is just pretty cool. So I hope Tomislav, you enjoyed. I'm assuming this is the first time you've ever been interviewed. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay.
First time, but I hope you enjoyed it. I don't know if everybody has a story in their life, and believe me, I tried to start writing a book at least a couple times, but
keep doing it.
Of course,
keep doing it.
I will try.
It's the same thing with me. No, it's hard because that's what we were talking about off the air, and I know it's hard to tell your story for the first time when you've lived through so much of it. And I know everything isn't centered around Guns N' Roses, but that was kind of the North Star that we're following. So I appreciate the story that you did give us, and I do want to hear more and keep writing. Whether it's for public consumption at some point or just for yourself.
I know. And
it's the same thing for me and I've talked about it. My story. I think I touched on it briefly just in the Roxanne episode. But we all have a story, and that's the point of these fan spotlights that I would like to continue with. And if you want to just be a spotlight for a future AFD episode, and if you're like, hey, I have a great story and it involves Guns N' Roses, we should talk, just hit me up on Facebook and Twitter, and that's we'll figure something out, just like Tomislav and I did. So I appreciate just the time. This is just another cool opportunity for me. Of course, I enjoyed it. I'm talking to somebody from Croatia. Then I never would have imagined. Yes, I never would have imagined talking to London Hudson or Scott Ian. I mean, yes, I've been in radio, but this is just a unique thing. This podcast has provided me with more than what FM has ever done, which is saying something about the state of FM. But just to talk to you, talk to Kevin from Ireland, who was our first fan profile. But we all have stories. Yeah, that's the point.
Exactly.
Like, I have a story. You guys have stories. Ty Kearns has a story. Tyler Bryant has a story. Some are more higher profile, of course. But we all have something. Stories
has to be told. And they're interesting. That's what it's life all about. And we got this band that is just keeps us, going, if I can say, and I cannot wait to hear another, GNR album, and I hope it's going to happen,
I hope so too, man. This is what, GNR kept me going, and I can say with GNR, and then this podcast is keeping me going. There were, Scotto was a little bit more upfront about, I guess he had his quote mental breakdown, whatever, while we were still doing the show. But for me, it's my mental breakdown's been lasting almost my entire life. But this this podcast has honestly helped me a lot. And talking to you, Tomislav, and talking to others and fans that reach out, that helped me because and this connection would not have been made without Guns N' Roses.
No.
So that's kind of the point of all of this. So I want to continue to make connections and see where it leads us. Maybe we will Maybe Tomislav, you and I will find world peace. We'll create it. We'll find peace in the Middle East, and it'll all be through Guns N' Roses, right? We'll get Israel and Palestine.
Yes.
We'll maybe the next Guns N' Roses album we'll play for them, and like, oh, they reunite over Chinese Democracy 2 or something like that.
I hope so. Sign me up. I'm right there.
So, I mean, this was just again amazing, cool experience. I know you were really excited to do it, and thanks for being patient. I know we had spoken about this for a while, and oddly enough, I keep getting cool guests to talk to. You, of course, won, but sometimes if they're out on tour, I have to work around their schedule. So with that, Tomislav, I'll kind of give you the first, the first look into like who we're going to be talking to, and I have mentioned some online already. But I'm hoping the next episode is going to be Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes, former drummer from the Black Crowes, who now works for Fox Sports Radio. He's a sports radio host, which is just crazy to me. It's weird. I met him like a couple years ago too, when because there's a lot of guys from Fox Sports, which is out in California, when they need to do business here in New York, and they still have to do their show. They stop by our iHeart Studios, and I tend to be the guy that kind of just babysit them or whatever and hook them up in the studio. And when Steve Gorman came in, at first I'm like, wait, Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes? Like, it didn't make sense because this is a radio guy. But of course, he moved on, and just he's doing his sports thing just like any other sports show. But during every commercial break, he'd come into like my production booth and just put his feet up, just talking to me, asking me about my life and telling me about the Black Crowes and I'm like, I should have reached out to him before. So
I love that band.
Yeah, so it's going to be very cool. I think he has stories of I think the Black Crowes were like the trailer between GNR and Nirvana during the VMAs, and I want to get his perspective, of course, of having a yes, Axl is a good boy now, but just having a unique lead singer, I should say, to get his perspective on that, because he did say something really cool that I wish the Black Crowes did, and it would be amazing if GNR ever did this, that he wanted to take his radio show on tour with a potential Black Crowes reunion. So it's like they have like a radio show like on tour with the band. I know Alice Cooper kind of does that with his radio show, but not like every day or every tour, like a lot, not have it live. So it's something I want to talk to him more about and get his opinion on GNR. So that might be a next episode. We'll see. Hoping to hear back, of course, from Roberta Freeman. She had some surgery, so she appreciated my patience with it, but she's excited to come on, and I've been getting a lot of amazing feedback from you, the Appetite for Distortion listeners, and with questions. And please send in questions whenever I announce a new guest. So again, Tomislav, this has been cool as we wrap up episode 47. Do you have any parting words other than I will say to you forever, your wife has on tape that you called her your soulmate. So I mean, you win. I mean, come on. She can't say anything more about Guns N' Roses. You were on a Guns N' Roses podcast, and you still mentioned that she's your soulmate on it.
She's waiting for me for now hour and a half, so I had to say it. No, I'm just joking. Hey, sometimes you have to admit in your life if you have something good, and I'm lucky. So as much as I was going through in the past, now it's you go up and you go down. There's two things that even Axl said, I think so, yeah. And you have a love and fear, and that is the only two things that people feel. When you fall in love, you don't care about anything because you're in love, and you're gonna do such different things, so many different things, and you don't care because its heart goes 200 miles an hour. It's the same thing with fear. If you're afraid of something, your heart goes 200 miles an hour, and that's what I'm saying. That is the love and the music and everything, and I'm thankful. So, and I want to thank to you for giving me a chance to tell just a little piece of my life, and I hope, you never know. In the next couple of years, we're going to go on the show and see the new Guns N' Roses again. So
Hey,
I mean, new album. That's what I mean.
You never know. You never know. Look, I have my hopes up for new GNR. It just seems all too good, and even with AC/DC. But that quote, and we can end it here. That Axl said, and it's in my fucking Facebook. So I try to live by this too. And fortunately, I'm picking the right one. We are made up of two contrasting ideals: love and fear. Pick one and live. I've lived a lot of my life in fear. The last few years, I'm trying to live by love, and I've noticed, my life has gotten better. And GNR has reunited at the same time. Coincidence? I think not. So it's just very cool that we can all connect because of Guns N' Roses. Amazing. So that's it for episode 47 for Appetite for Distortion. Again, Tomislav, you are the man. I have no other friends named Tomislav, so. You're
gonna remember it.
I'm never gonna forget you, of course. Especially I have no other friends from Croatia either. So in the meantime, if you like what we do here at the AFD Show, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter, both at the AFD Show. Also, please follow and subscribe to the podcast itself: SoundCloud, iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. The more people know about us, the bigger guest that we're going to get. Bigger than Tomislav from Croatia. But no, and I obviously am being facetious, but I mean, I've been very lucky with some of the big name guests that we've had on the show. Only more potential. You can help me out with that to interview some of your and my favorite rock stars. If you just spread the word of the AFD Show, share the links on your Facebook and Twitter, retweet us, leave a review on wherever we are. I just thank you for it. That's all it is. So, when will you see the next episode of the AFD Show? In the words of Axl Rose concerning Chinese democracy, I don't know if soon is the word, but you'll see it.
You've been listening to the distorted minds of Appetite for Distortion. Follow the guys on Twitter at the AFD Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/the AFD Show.
Thanks to the lame ass security, I'm going home.